Hi, today we'll show you how to create 3D text in DaVinci Resolve. Want to know how to make this cool 3D text with a shadow on a building? Let's jump into Fusion. To create this effect, we'll need to use the camera tracker. Select Media In, then press Shift plus Space to open the search bar and find Camera Tracker. This tool analyzes how the camera moves and recreates the shot in 3D space. Enable Preview Auto Track Locations. As you can see, green dots appear in the viewer. These are the points the tracker will analyze to map the camera's movement. However, for more accurate tracking, it's better to have more points. For example, you can increase the detection threshold and decrease the minimum feature separation. Also select bidirectional tracking and then click Auto Track. Once the tracking is complete, go to the Camera tab. If you know the exact camera model and its settings, you can enter them here to better reproduce the shot in 3D space. If not, you can simply leave the default settings. Now move to the Solve tab. Here we want to remove any incorrectly tracked points. First, click Apply Track Selection Filters. Some points will be selected automatically. Now remove them by clicking Delete, and then click Solve. The tracker will now calculate the camera movement, using only the remaining points. When the solve is finished, check the average solve error. In our case, it's 0.4. Ideally, it should be below 1 pixel, and preferably under 0.5. To reduce this number, you can select individual red points and delete them. If the error is still high, try slightly lowering the maximum solve error. After removing problematic points, click Solve again. Once you're satisfied with the result, go to the Export tab. Before exporting, it's a good idea to set reference points. First click Unaligned, then select a few points where you want your object or text to appear. Click Set from Selection under Origin. This will define the position where the objects added to the 3D scene will appear. Orientation controls the alignment of the ground plane. Ideally, you should select points that lie on the ground. However, not every shot has a visible ground surface, so sometimes you have to estimate where it would be. In our case, we'll select points on the lower buildings. Then click Set from Selection under Orientation. Switch it to Aligned and click Export. See how we didn't select Aligned here? We'll cut you some slack and not show the whole thing. But see what happens when you skip any of the steps. Our origin point was shifted and didn't align with the camera movement at all. We had to delete what we've done, fix the camera tracker and export it again. After exporting, several nodes will appear. The camera tracker node we used earlier can now be disconnected by holding Shift and leaving it unconnected. If the tracker ever stops working properly, you can always reconnect it and make adjustments, as we saw earlier. Connect the new nodes to Media Out. You can keep the ground plane node for later, but disconnect it for now. The Point Cloud node only displays the tracking points in 3D space, so we won't need it and can remove it. Now we can add something into our 3D space. Let's insert some text. Add a Text 3D node and connect it to Merge 3D. Type your text into the text field. The text will appear at the position defined by the origin points. Now go to the Transfer tab and adjust the position of the text until it looks right. In this case, we want the text to sit on the wall of the building. Working in 3D space often requires some experimentation. Move, scale, and reposition the text until you're happy with the result. Next, let's give the text actual depth. Go to the Text tab, open Extrusion, and increase the extrusion depth. Now the text has thickness, but it still doesn't look very clear, because we haven't added lighting yet. Let's fix that. First, add an ambient light. At first you might not see anything, because you need to select the camera tracker renderer node and enable lighting and shadows. Right now the text appears dark gray. You can adjust this by increasing the intensity in the ambient light node. However, we'll adjust this gray to match the shadows in the shot. This light will act as a shadow for our text. You'll understand this better once you watch the rest of the video. Next, add a spotlight to simulate sunlight. Look at the Merge 3D viewer. This is the 3D space where we can position the light. Go to the Transform tab and enable Use Target. If you haven't moved the text too far from the original position, the light will automatically point toward it. If not, you can move the target manually. In our case, the light is pointing toward the text, so we just need to position it where the sunlight would naturally come from. Don't worry if you can't see the light at first. Sometimes simply moving it farther away helps. After setting up the lighting, go to Camera Tracker Renderer, open Settings and enable Motion Blur. This is especially helpful if your shot contains quick camera movement. Turn it on and see how it looks. Now the text blends so much better with the footage. And now we have a cool 3D sign. You can stop here or stay a bit longer and learn how to add a realistic shadow on the building. For that, we'll use the ground plane node we left earlier. First, we need to copy a few elements. Disconnect everything for a moment and prepare the nodes for creating the shadow. These nodes should be prepared like this. Leave some space in front, as we'll be adding the shadow earlier, so it's underneath our text, not on the top of it. Copy Merge 3D and Camera 3D. We also want to copy Text 3D, but this time use Paste Instance. That way, if we change the text in one node, it will automatically update in the other. Then combine all elements with Merge 3D and add Renderer 3D to render the shadow. And finally, merge it with Media In. After merging, you'll notice a purple ground plane appearing in the image. To remove it, go to the ground plane node and change its color to white. Then open the Merge node and change Apply Mode to Multiply. Also add an Override 3D node to the text so that only the shadow is rendered. In Visibility, enable Do Unseen by Cameras and Unseen by Cameras. Now we need to adjust one important thing. If your object sits on the ground, you can skip this step. But since we want the shadow on the building wall, we need to reposition the ground plane. The shadow will be cast on the ground plane, so we want that plane to match the building wall. This can take some experimentation. Since our text sits roughly flush with the wall, we'll position the ground plane parallel to the text. Now we can add light to generate the shadow. In our case, the shadow comes from sunlight, so we can simply copy the spotlight node from the first setup and connect it to the second node tree. At first you might not see anything. Go to Renderer 3D and enable lighting and shadows. You'll now see the outline on the ground plane, which we don't want. To fix this, go to the ground plane node and disable lighting. If the shadow looks pixelated, go to the spotlight, open Shadow Settings and increase the shadow map size. Next, we want the shadow to appear only on a specific part of the building. To do that, add a mask to the Renderer 3D node and track or animate it manually. In our case, the camera movement is minimal, so we only need to set a few key points, so the mask follows the shot. Don't forget to add a slight blur to soften the mask edges. To make the shadow look more natural, you can also add a blur node. This helps blend it more realistically with the footage. And that's it! We hope this video was helpful. Don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment letting us know what you'd like us to cover next. Thanks for watching!